A helmet rests beside a single key and an empty passenger seat. You might call that freedom, because nobody can slow your pace or question the next turn. But if freedom is real, company should not instantly feel like surrender. Riding alone does not automatically mean you are introverted, antisocial, lonely, or reckless. The empty seat is not a personality test. What matters more is the function solitude serves when you choose it again and again. The same quiet road can protect peace in one person and protect avoidance in another. That distinction changes everything about these 5 traits. The first 3 can be genuine strengths. The last 2 appear only when independence becomes rigid, when connection stops feeling voluntary and starts resembling a threat to the identity you have. Built around being alone. The first trait is autonomy hunger. Some riders value the ability to choose the route, pace, stops, timing, and destination without negotiation. That does not require disliking people. A sociable person can still feel most alive when every decision belongs entirely to them. On a solo ride, nobody asks you to speed up, slow down, stop early, or follow a road that does not interest you. The appeal is not necessarily rebellion. It may be the clean feeling of acting from your own choice, with no social pressure attached. That can be healthy. Autonomy is not selfishness, and preferring control over your own ride does not prove that you need authority over everyone else. The question appears only when every compromise begins to feel like interference. At that point, you may no longer be protecting a route. Perhaps the real protection is from being influenced. That pressure leads into the second trait, emotional decompression. Solitude can reduce social demand and lower emotional intensity. When the engine starts, conversations, notifications, expectations, and other people's moods temporarily stop competing for your attention. The ride does not have to cure anything to matter. It may simply give your attention fewer demands to process. You are not required to explain your face, defend your silence, or perform a version of yourself that keeps everyone else comfortable. For a while, the road asks only for attention. Again, that can be a strength. A person who knows how to create calm is not automatically hiding a problem. The meaning changes when the ride becomes the only place where calm feels possible, or when solitude is used to escape every situation that involves emotional exposure. So the first useful answer is not dark at all. Autonomy and emotional decompression can make solo riding restorative. The unresolved question is whether you are choosing quiet or whether silence has become the only condition you can tolerate. The third trait is a focus on competence. For some riders, the reward is not the absence of people. It is the presence of immediate, private feedback. Your braking, balance, timing, awareness, and control answer you without conversation. This can create flow, a state of absorbed focus where attention becomes tightly connected to the task. The rider, motorcycle, and road begin to feel like one continuous system of decisions. That experience can be rewarding in itself without requiring applause, status, or even company. This is where the usual thrill-seeker stereotype becomes too simple. A rider may not be chasing chaos at all. The person may be protecting concentration, waiting for a group, adjusting to different skill levels, or maintaining conversation can interrupt the state they value most. But repeated rewards can grow into identity. Autonomy gives you direction. Emotional decompression lets you become quiet. Competence tells you who you are when your actions receive immediate feedback. Over time, those experiences can become part of a protected rider identity. Now the first 3 traits change meaning. They are still strengths, but they can become identity armor. Questions about the way you ride may sound like doubts about your capability. An invitation to compromise may feel like an attempt to weaken the version of yourself that feels most controlled and complete. That opens the 4th trait, guarded independence. In its healthy form, independence lets you handle things alone. The guarded version makes you feel that you must handle everything alone, because being seen needing support feels dangerous, embarrassing, or unacceptable. Solo riding cannot prove that pattern. It cannot reveal your attachment style or emotional health from the outside. The darker interpretation becomes plausible only when the ride appears beside a wider behavior. You conceal distress, refuse help, and protect other people from seeing what is actually difficult. You may say you do not want to burden anyone. That can sound generous. Sometimes it is, but it can also preserve distance. If nobody sees the pressure, nobody can disappoint you, judge you, misunderstand you, or become important enough to hurt you. The contradiction is uncomfortable. You may describe complete self-reliance as freedom while feeling unable to risk dependence. You may believe nobody controls you, yet your choices are being controlled by the need never to appear vulnerable. This is the main difference between solitude and armor. Solitude is chosen. Armor feels impossible to remove. Independence becomes defensive when safe connection itself starts to feel like control. Exposure, or surrender. That is the deepest answer behind people who always ride alone. The ride is not the warning sign. Inflexibility is. The important question is whether you can choose company when it is safe, or whether your identity requires the empty seat to remain empty. That leads to the fifth trait, avoidance disguised as freedom. This interpretation requires more than a preference for solo rides. It needs a pattern cluster, because one behavior cannot prove one hidden motive. The first marker is repeated rejection of compatible, low-pressure company. This is not declining a crowded ride, refusing an unsafe group, or protecting a pace that feels responsible. It is rejecting even trusted people who would respect your limits and riding style. A compatible rider respects your pace, boundaries, and silence. Their presence does not require surrendering the experience. The second marker is concealed distress. You insist that nothing is wrong, refuse support, and disappear into the ride whenever pressure becomes visible. The motorcycle may provide real calm, but it also ensures that nobody gets close enough to ask what the calm is protecting. The third marker appears in how you interpret concern. Compromise feels like control. Closeness becomes intrusive. An invitation sounds like pressure. Someone asking whether you are all right can feel less like care and more like an attempt to enter territory you have declared private. Repeated exclusion or disappointment can sometimes make solitude feel safer, but that background cannot be assumed. What can be examined is the present pattern. When safe company is rejected, distress stays hidden, and concern is treated as interference. Avoidance becomes a plausible explanation. In that pattern, solitude asks for no trust. The road cannot reject you, misunderstand your silence, or demand emotional honesty. That can make the ride feel cleaner than human connection. It can also make isolation look like superiority, even when the real function is protection. None of this means you should force yourself into group rides or treat solitude as a defect. The point is not to remove the strength. It is to test whether that strength still leaves you with options. Could you occasionally ride with someone you trust without feeling that your freedom had been taken? Are you able to admit that something is difficult without experiencing support as weakness? Can you accept a reasonable compromise without turning it into evidence that another person wants control? Those questions do not measure how social you are. They measure flexibility. Healthy autonomy lets you choose the empty road because it restores you. Defensive autonomy makes that road feel like the only place where nobody can reach you. Return to the helmet, the key, and the empty passenger seat. The image has not changed, but its meaning has. The seat alone reveals nothing. Motive, context, and flexibility reveal whether the solitude is peaceful, focused, guarded, or avoidant. That distinction is quiet, but decisive. You can protect autonomy, emotional calm, and competence without building your entire identity around permanent distance. Self-awareness does not take the road away from you. It gives you back the part that armor quietly removes: choice. Real independence lets you ride alone without losing the ability to accept trustworthy connection.